Okay, welcome to Inside the Studio with Greg Wurth. And in this episode, it's going to be a continuation of a previous video that I did where I demonstrated mixing guitar tracks using Plugin Alliance stuff. So I said that I would break out some more tracks and explain a little more things. So in the last video, we left off and I just demonstrated the basic compressors, EQs, and things like that I added on the tracks. And I showed what it sounded like in context of the whole mix. So now this one, I'll break down and show you some effects. So for the main guitar, I was using the VSM3 just for a little bit of saturation. And I'm actually blending in for the solo section a little bit of Harmonizer from Eventide, which is the original model H910, which they've come out recently in their bundle. And it's a really cool plugin. This is basically just a standard stock preset. I didn't really mess with it because it sounded good right out of the gate. So I guess to start, I'll just show you what that sounds like. And if you see here, I've got some automation. So I'll start it from a little bit before the solo, and you'll hear it being added in, and then I'll go ahead and bypass it midway so you can hear it as well. So as you can see, it's sort of, it makes it poke out and it excites it. To me, it just makes it feel more dimensional, if that's, the best way I can really explain it. And it doesn't change the tone so much, but it just kind of adds a little bit of dimension in there and makes it interesting. And so that's the Eventide plugin. I recommend that. I like using it on everything. I mean, it's great on vocals. I actually have it on the lead vocal, which I can demonstrate that in a little bit. So I also added that on the guitar effect track, which I demonstrated previously, where it's got a lot of drastic panning and things. So I'll just show what I'm doing on there, because I'm actually adding a little bit of micro pitch slap that I've done, and I have it locked to the session tempo. And this is another one from Eventide, the H3000 factory, which it has a lot of the same sounds from the classic Eventide H3000 units that everybody holds in high regard. And so this is a very popular patch you're probably familiar with, but if not, here's something new. So to start, I'll demonstrate that slap on there, and then I'll add the harmonizer and let you see how that sounds. So it just adds more dimension. I know I keep saying dimension this, dimension that, but that's just, that's the way I feel. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. Maybe you have another explanation that makes sense to you. So here's that same track with the slap, and then I'll add the harmonizer in there. So it's just texture, the way that I like to do things in small increments, like different, different gauges of sandpaper or what have you. And that's kind of how I like to add things to tracks and stuff. I don't like to be super heavy handed unless I'm going for that drastic effect. So that's it for effect. I mean, this track is, it's a 3-piece. Band, so it's a very basic track, and what we were trying to do was keep it very simple. So here's actually the lead vocal, and for this one I'm using a little bit of de-essing from this SPL plugin from Plugin Alliance, which is really great. And guess what? I'm using the BX Opto on the vocal. I'm not doing any sidechain. I'm just doing about 60% wet here to get a little gain reduction. I mean, as you can see, it's highly compressed. It's a distorted, dirty track. It was recorded with a vintage U47 straight into a Neve 1084 and then into a vintage stay level. So when you hear it, there's a lot of grit going on. So I just wanted to compress it just a tiny bit. And then I'm brightening things up here with a little bit of BX console. So here's the vocal, and I'll bypass the effects to start.
Wake up in a cold sweat with blood on my skin. Don't know where I am or where I've been. Look to my left, no one inside. I look around and something ain't right, yeah.
So, obviously that's a lot of slap. It's kind of a vintage style, so we're going for a dramatic effect here. So just a little bit of harmonizer below that, just to let it, blend a little bit and have a little bit of sparkle in the track. So I'll just play the track from the beginning and you can hear it with the vocal. And I realized I didn't really play the guitar lick section in context with the mix, so I'll let it run for a little bit and you guys can listen to just all the textures and kind of let it sink in of all these little techniques that I've been doing. So, everything blends together very nicely. And, right off the bat, just an idea that came to my mind when I heard this guitar licks track is, maybe I can add a little bit of this same slap in there because it comes in certain sections, so it won't be too busy. So let's give that a try and see what it sounds like on the track here. And I'll start with it soloed. So a little trick here that's kind of like a la Jimmy Page is to pan the guitar effect, be it reverb or delay, on the hard opposite side where the guitars are. So this guitar is, more favoring the right side. So let's just see what it sounds like if I pan this delay a little bit to the left, and it'll add a little width and dimension to the track. Let's see how this sounds in context. So it's cool. Maybe let's hear it. Let's hear it with it panned more heavily to the right, so it sort of stays where the track is, and see what that sounds like.
What's this blood on my hands? Oh, I don't understand.
It depends on what you're going for. I kind of like it going over here because it sounds a little right heavy doing it the other way. So for now, I'll leave it like that and tuck it down a little bit. That's pretty much it with all this stuff. I can show you what's going on with the drums. As I mentioned before, we use a Lewitt-Rex 640, so it's a dual element microphone, so it has a dynamic and a condenser capsule in there with a 5-pin that splits out, so you can route it to 2 mic pre's. And it's really cool because it's phase accurate, so you basically get 2 different sounds of the kick that you can blend together. And typical top snare, bottom snare, and then just a rack tom and a floor tom, hi-hat ride. And for this session, we had a mono overhead with an M160, and then I forgot what I used on the overheads, but it was a stereo that I ended up comping them together just to be manageable. And same with the room. We had like a mono room and a stereo, and I comped those together to just kind of keep things simple. And this is just really quick settings and stuff. I tried to keep it very simple. For the kick, I compressed on the way in, so I didn't feel like I needed to compress much more, at least for this example. This EQ, this digital V3, is really cool. I was able to get some nice low end and beater out of it. So I'll just give an example of how that sounded. So, give a little girth. It's probably not what I'll use on the final mix, but I just was trying to get a quick sound out of it. And the condenser, it picks up really nice low end. So I felt like I wanted to accentuate a lot of the lows. And this Plug-in Alliance BX Boom is kind of like a one knob kind of tool to sort of get a lot of low end out of it. So here's what the track sounds like raw. So it gave it a little more girth there. And this is acting as kind of like a Yamaha subkick kind of feel there. And this is a really cool EQ. Here is the Maag, the famous Air Band, which you can overdo it pretty quickly, but it's very useful. So I'll just show you what it sounds like on the snare. Here's without. So it brought a little more snap in there and accentuated the frequencies that are more natural to that instrument. And I did the same thing with the bottom snare. So, I don't want to bore you with details. I guess let's see the overheads here. What am I using? One of my favorite VCAs is this Vertigo Sound VSC2 that Brainworx did. Super clean sounding and transparent if you want it to be. So basically, first off, I ran this Bax EQ by Dangerous, and I'm just filtering out 54 hertz and below just to clean up, take a little bit of that low end out of the overheads that doesn't need to be there before the compression. So here's what it sounds like. So not too drastic. I changed the makeup gain there a little bit. So it's just controlling that. I don't really like to compress too much overheads because the cymbals can get really harsh depending on the style of music, and this is a really heavy tune, so got to be careful on that. And here's the rooms, and I'm doing something similar with the Bax EQ. I'm filtering down to 36 hertz because I'm letting a little bit of the low end through, and I'm cutting 70 hertz up here before the compression. And I'm also using the the VSC2 again on the rooms. So let's hear that. So, right off the bat, it adds a little aggression to it. It kind of plays with the attack and the release, so it gives that pumping feel, which is a nice blend into the track. So, and down the line, I got a drum bus here, yet again with the VSC2. The luxury of having plugins is that you can instantiate as many instances as you'd like, as opposed to having the one hardware unit that you got to pick and choose where to use it. And I'm using a little bit of this V3 EQ on the drum bus. So I'll show you what this sounds like. Oh, and I'm just adding a little room verb. I'm using this Exponential Audio Phoenix Verb and just stock setting room Studio A preset. It's very cool. I like natural sounding verbs for drums, especially. On the return, I'm filtering the low end before it hits the reverb because I just, you don't really need to add reverb to the low end because it takes away a lot of the clarity and definition there. So here's the drums all together here. So I removed the reverb, and you can immediately hear what it does, and it adds a nice ambience to the track. And for this specific song, I'm only adding a little bit of reverb to the kick drum. I got this send at -18, almost -19, so that's not a whole lot, but it's just giving a little ambience, and I'm adding some to the top and bottom snare and also the toms, and I'm leaving everything else alone. So I'll play it again, and then I'll start muting out the drum bus, and you'll hear what it sounds like taking that away, and then I'll go ahead and I'll take away the room mic, etc. So it can kind of give you an example of how adding these things and a little by little can really make the track sound bigger and fatter. So it makes it a little more explosive, and it expands the track and just makes it sound fatter and wider. So let's keep the drum bus out, and now I'll do the same thing, and I'll remove the room mics, and you'll kind of see what that adds to the track. So as you can see, just adding, I guess the lesson of this whole thing is just doing things in small increments and adding things little by little can add up to a better mix and get you closer. It's not about being heavy-handed and doing one fell swoop to get a sound. You got to kind of take it one step at a time and focus on small things, and you'll get there. And I guess lastly, I'll just show you, I got a little bit of processing on the stereo bus. One of my favorite EQs is the Fabfilter Pro Q2. And this one, I just have it in mid-side mode, and I'm filtering. It's centered around 64 hertz, but it's actually starting to drop down more around 100, and I'm filtering those out of the sides. And if you saw my stereo bus EQ video, that's one of my favorite features on the Tequalizer by TK Audio, where you can filter out certain frequencies on the sides only, so it lets your low end be more focused and punchy, and you gain a little bit of headroom out of it. So that's what's going on there. And then from there, guess what? Another VSC2, just grab it on a little bit. And then I'm using the Maag EQ2, and just adding a tiny bit of low end and a little bit of air at 40 hertz. I actually, if you saw my video from NAMM, I interviewed Cliff Maag Sr., and he gave me a little tip about using the 40 hertz setting on the air band. You can actually be a little more heavy-handed with it, because it's mostly boosting frequencies that are out of your ability to hear, but it lifts the tracks a little bit, and you feel a little bit of harmonic content being added on the top without being harsh. So that was a good tip. So I wanted to try that out here. So I guess I can start by just bypassing all this stuff and then letting you hear what it sounds like being added one by one. So that might be a little difficult to hear on headphones or whatever you're playing back from. But what I'm hearing when I'm engaging this mid-side filter is that it just clears things up. The low end is all of a sudden clear and punchy, and it's passing through. And it's just nice. It's relieving pressure, it feels like. And I guess that translates to headroom. So, okay, now let's hear what this Vertigo is doing.
What's this blood on my hands? Oh, I don't understand. Oh, where have I been? Forgive me for...
So it's very subtle. I'm getting maybe a half a dB, maybe a dB of gain reduction on this, but it's got a nice grab. It's making the snare and the kick a little snappier, and it's gluing the things together a little bit more, and which is great. I mean, that's what this thing is known for. So now let's hear it with the Maag EQ being added.
What's this blood on my hands? Oh, I don't understand. Oh, where have I been?
So immediately, what I hear is just there's a little bit of lift going on, right here from this 40 hertz air band. It's just adding a little air, I guess is the best word, and without being harsh. It's taken away a little bit of the dullness and just a little bit of low end here. So very subtle, but hope that is helpful. And I guess that's it. So thanks for tuning in, and please make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well as the newsletter on my website. As I always mention, I'm doing a ton of giveaways, And in order to be eligible, you really need to be subscribed to both. I'm gearing up on some new giveaways, so I'll announce them on the newsletter. So make sure you're subscribed and you can hear about it. So I'll check you out next time. Take care.